Hello and welcome back to Hank USA. I'm Hank. There are several changes happening right now, with more on the way, that are quietly costing American seniors real money. Some come as direct fines for rules that changed without much public notice. Others are new systems and technologies that are legally allowed to act against your finances or your property before you even know there's a problem. The frustrating part is that none of these usually arrive with a polite warning letter or a friendly phone call explaining the new rules. You tend to find out after the fine has been issued, your insurance has been threatened, or your money has been locked up. Today, we'll walk through each one. I'll explain what changed, who's most affected, and the specific steps you can take right now to protect yourself. Before we start, please give this video a like, subscribe to Hank USA, and turn on the notification bell. Rules like these are changing faster than ever, and finding out the hard way can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars.
Subscribing is the simplest way to stay ahead of it. Let's start with the first one, and it affects anyone who owns a home and carries homeowners insurance. A new practice is spreading fast, and it could already be happening to you without your knowledge. There's a real chance your insurance company recently inspected your home's exterior, your roof, your yard, the whole property, without you knowing. They didn't send a person to your door. They flew a drone over your property or bought high-resolution aerial and satellite images from specialized third-party companies. Major carriers like State Farm, Allstate, and Farmers have been reported to use this method, often working through data companies like Cape Analytics and Nearmap, which use artificial intelligence to analyze the images. That software scans the pictures of your home and automatically flags possible issues: a few damaged shingles, patches of moss, tree branches touching or hanging over the roof, or what the AI decides is too much debris in the yard. Once the AI generates its report, the consequences can be serious. You might get a sudden cancellation notice, a notice that your policy won't be renewed, or a formal demand to make expensive repairs within a tight deadline, or else lose your coverage. Here's the part that has consumer advocates and homeowners worried. In most states, the insurance company isn't legally required to show you the images or data they used to make the decision. You're being judged on evidence you're not allowed to see. Take a homeowner near Galveston, Texas. She got a demand from her insurer to replace her entire roof, with non-renewal hanging over her head. When she asked State Farm for the aerial images behind the decision, the company declined, pointing to internal policy. They said they have the right to survey a property and don't have to share their inspection reports. Legally, she had no way to see the evidence being used against her. This matters for seniors for two reasons. First, a home lived in and cared for by the same family for 20 or 30 years is more likely to have a roof at or past the 15-year mark, which many insurers now treat as an automatic trigger for action. Second, these AI systems are far from perfect. There are documented cases where solar panels were flagged as structural damage. Moss on a neighbor's tree was attributed to the wrong property. And in one Texas case, an insurer based a non-renewal on aerial images of a completely different house. So what can you do? You're not powerless. First, be proactive. Call your insurer's customer service line and ask, specifically, have any aerial, drone, or satellite inspections been done on my property? And if so, what were the findings? That puts them on notice that you know about the practice. Second, if you get a non-renewal or a repair demand based on a remote inspection, file a formal complaint with your state's Department of Insurance and specifically request the exact images and data they used. They might deny your initial request, but a formal inquiry from a state regulator carries far more weight. Some states, including Massachusetts, are already looking at laws that would force insurers to let homeowners see and challenge this aerial evidence, and your complaint adds to that pressure. Third, if you've already gotten a demand letter, don't just accept it. Hire a licensed local roofer to do an in-person inspection. A detailed report from a human expert that contradicts the secret aerial analysis has reversed a lot of these decisions. The second change often catches seniors off guard because it feels like the bank made a terrible mistake. In reality, they're following newer rules that are completely legal and getting more common. As of early 2026, a majority of U.S. states have passed what are called safe harbor laws. These give banks and other financial institutions the authority and some encouragement to delay or hold a transaction or a withdrawal from an older customer's account whenever they believe financial exploitation might be happening. Now, there's a related set of rules worth understanding, and it's important to keep them separate.
For brokerage and investment accounts, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA, has its own framework. Under FINRA Rule 2165, a brokerage firm can place a temporary hold on the account of what it calls a specified adult, generally anyone 65 or older, or an adult the firm believes may be impaired. That hold can currently run up to 25 business days, and as long as 55 business days if the firm reports the matter to a regulator, agency, or court. And in January 2026, FINRA proposed extending that maximum from 55 all the way up to 145 business days in the most complex cases. That proposal is still under review, but even the current window is long enough to cause real problems. Here's the practical effect, whether it's your bank or your brokerage. If their automated monitoring system, usually an AI, flags a transaction as unusual, it can trigger a hold. What counts as unusual? A large wire transfer you've never made before, a sudden high-value Zelle or Venmo payment that doesn't match your history, or even a cash withdrawal that seems out of character. When something's flagged, they can freeze that specific payment,
And in some cases, place a temporary restriction on the whole account while they investigate. The intention behind these laws is good, to protect seniors from the flood of sophisticated scams out there. The flaw is that the system often can't tell a genuine scam from a legitimate but unusual transaction. A financial gift to a grandchild, a big check to a contractor, or a withdrawal for a major planned purchase can all be frozen without warning until the review is done. During that hold, you're essentially locked out of your own money. Fortunately, there's one powerful step that can prevent this or resolve it in minutes instead of weeks. Designate a trusted contact person on every financial account you own, checking, savings, and investment accounts alike. A trusted contact is someone you name, a family member, your attorney, a close friend, whose name and contact information stay on file. It's important to understand the limits. They have no access to your money, can't make transactions, and aren't a joint owner. Their only role is to be a point of verification. If the institution flags a transaction and gets concerned, instead of freezing things for weeks, their first move is to call your trusted contact. A weeks-long investigation can end with a 15-minute call, confirming that, yes, you're aware of the transaction and meant to make it. For brokerage and investment accounts, this trusted contact option comes from a FINRA rule, and the firm should offer it directly. For your bank accounts, ask whether the bank offers a trusted contact as well, since many now do under their own policies and state law. Either way, call each institution. Tell them you'd like to add a trusted contact person to your account and have that person's name, phone number, and relationship to you ready. It usually takes under 10 minutes, and it's one of the most effective protective steps you can take. The third issue is for every senior who drives. It involves traffic laws most people think they already understand, but the way they're written and enforced in 2026 is meaningfully different from what experienced drivers expect. The Move Over law has been on the books in every state for years. Most drivers know the basic version. When you see an emergency vehicle on the shoulder with lights flashing, you move into the next lane if you can, or slow down a lot if you can't. What a lot of drivers don't realize, especially those who've driven for decades with the original rule in mind, is that the law has been broadly expanded in many states over the last couple of years. It now often covers any vehicle stopped on the shoulder with its hazard lights on, not just emergency responders. California's expanded law took effect January 1st, 2026, and now covers all stopped vehicles showing hazard lights or warning devices. Texas expanded its law in September 2025 to add vehicles like animal control and parking enforcement. States like Kansas, New Hampshire, and West Virginia made similar changes in 2025, and in New York, the rule has applied to any vehicle on the shoulder since 2024. Enforcement has shifted too. Officers are giving out far fewer warnings. In California, fines for a move-over violation can reach $1,000 for repeat offenses. New York treats it as a serious moving violation with a fine in the range of a few $100s plus points on your license. The specifics vary by state, so it's worth checking your own. There's another nuance most drivers miss. Knowing you need to slow down is one thing, but if you don't know how much, you might still be in violation, because some states are very specific.
Colorado, for example, requires you to slow to 25 miles per hour where the limit is 40 or less, and on faster roads, at least 20 below the posted limit if you can't safely change lanes. Michigan requires slowing to at least 10 below the limit. So a driver who taps the brakes and drops just 5 miles per hour isn't legally compliant in those states and can still be ticketed. You have to make a conscious, significant reduction. This hits careful, experienced senior drivers for a simple reason. They're more likely to travel in the right-hand lane. That's generally the safest practice, but it's also the lane right next to the shoulder where these vehicles are stopped, so you end up having to react more often. The fourth and final area is automated enforcement cameras, which have expanded a lot in 2026 and work very differently from a traditional police stop. School zone speed cameras are now active and issuing tickets in Connecticut, where about 15 towns have approved programs, many of them in school zones, ticketing vehicles going 10 or more miles per hour over the limit. It's worth knowing that this varies a great deal by state. Some states are only now debating it. New Jersey, for instance, still bans traffic cameras and only introduced bills in early 2026 to allow them in school zones. And Massachusetts hasn't passed an automated speed enforcement law either. Florida, on the other hand, has active school zone speed cameras in 2026. Even more common are cameras in highway work zones used in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Illinois, and other states. These systems don't involve an officer watching you drive. The camera photographs your license plate, a computer calculates your speed, and if you're over the limit, a fine is automatically generated and mailed to the registered owner. The citation can show up weeks after the trip. There's no warning in the moment and no chance to explain. This matters most in work zones. Temporary reduced speed limits in construction zones can drop sharply, from 70 down to 45, or 65 down to 50, and they're posted on temporary orange signs that are sometimes spaced farther apart than standard signs. A driver focused on real safety tasks, holding position through a narrow channel of cones, watching following distance, handling merges, may not register the reduced speed sign quickly enough before a camera catches the plate. The fine is generated regardless of intent. The system doesn't know you're a careful driver in a confusing area. It only knows your speed at one point. So the rule for work zones has to change for this new reality. The moment you see the first orange sign showing a reduced limit, slow down right away. Don't wait. Then hold that slower speed for the entire length of the zone. Not just until you pass the visible lane narrowing or the workers. The zone is legally active all the way to the sign that says End Roadwork. Cameras are often placed strategically after the reduced limit begins, but before the zone officially ends, to catch drivers who speed up too soon. Let me pull it all together. First, insurance companies are using drones and satellite imagery to inspect your property from the air, often without notice. Be proactive and ask your insurer whether an inspection has happened. If you get a demand letter, fight back with an in-person inspection report from a local professional. Second, banks and brokerages can legally freeze transactions if their systems flag them, for weeks in some cases. The most powerful way to prevent or quickly resolve this is to call each institution and add a trusted contact person to every account. Third, the Move Over law has expanded in many states to cover any vehicle with its hazard lights on, not just emergency vehicles. Either change lanes or slow down significantly, often 10 to 20 miles per hour below the limit, depending on the state. And fourth, automated speed cameras in school zones and work zones are mailing fines straight to vehicle owners with no police stop. When you see that first orange work zone sign, slow down right there and hold it until you see the sign that ends the zone. None of these require you to be doing anything reckless. They're catching good people who simply didn't know the rules had changed. Now you do. A quick reminder, this is general educational information. Rules vary by state and change over time, so always confirm the details with official sources or a qualified professional. This has been Hank with Hank USA. If this helped, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with another senior who owns a home or drives a car. They need to know this too. I'll see you in the next one.